In today's video, we're going to talk about Linux basics. If you're new to it, this is the video you want to watch. So in my most popular video of all that I've posted thus far is the one on 4 commands on how to fix your Windows computers. And in that, I had 1 or 2 people may suggest the way of fixing Windows is by installing Linux. So I thought today, let's explore Linux. After all, Linux runs the entire world pretty much now. Now, while Microsoft's very popular operating system, and you're no doubt very familiar with Windows, and you might know of another one, Mac, Apple, macOS X. It's been around for quite a long time too. Out of those two, Windows is by far more popular, but they're both very well known. However, there's a sleeping giant that sits in the background that you may not be as familiar with, and that is called Linux. Linux is an operating system, just like Windows, just like Mac OS X, but it's a little different. In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the differences between Windows and Linux to help you get familiar to it. We're just going to cover the very basics here. So if you're brand new to Linux, I think you'll enjoy this the most. So here we have what's called Debian Linux. This is just a simple Linux distribution. I didn't do anything fancy. And this gets us in Linux to play with it, and you'll see the differences. Now, you might think, hey, this looks pretty boring and basic. You're right, because it's just the generic install. There's nothing in this system. But with Windows, you get Windows. With Mac, you get Mac. And by that, I mean, you get whatever they want to give you, and that's it. You can customize the colors, you can change the size of things, you can do little things here and there. But with Linux, you have ultimate control. That's the beauty part about Linux. Linux is what's called open source kernel, and then all these applications on top of Linux, such as the GNU utilities, desktop environments like what you're seeing here on your screen, which is XFCE. There's also KDE and GNOME, Cinnamon, and so many others. You can make it look however way you want. You want a system that runs on the best hardware only, but is horrible on older stuff. You can make it as big and bulky as you want, or you can streamline it, make it thin and as fast as you want as well. So this one that I picked here is just XFCE. And what this is just, it's a Windows manager. You might look at this and go, hey, this kind of looks like Mac OS X. Well, you're right. It kind of does. You've got the little launcher thing down here, and you've got the little title bar. We have some virtual desktops here. So if we open a window and jump over here and open another different window, you'll see how these are kind of different, but they're just the same desktop, but they're virtual desktops. Now you have the clock and battery if you've got it plugged in, which I do. Now, this is obviously in Hyper-V on my Windows workstation, but this allows you to see just to help you get familiar with it, how Linux isn't that different from other operating systems now. But what really makes Linux powerful is its customization. See, Windows operates on what's called an API. In other words, the applications that are built, in order for it to talk to the operating system, it does application calls, which is Application Programming Interface. That's what API stands for. And essentially, that's a fancy way of saying the applications have a certain way of saying, hey, I need this. This is what I want you to do, or can I do this? And then the Windows kernel on the back end accepts those API calls and then decides whether to do those or allow them or stop them, and etc. This is all very, very simplified compared to what it actually goes on, but this is just to help you understand. And really, Linux isn't just one operating system. Matter of fact, Linux is just a kernel. All the applications on top of Linux, and a lot of people refer to Linux as the entire operating system nowadays, really think of it as an ecosystem. because it's a bunch of Legos that you can build on top of each other to build and make what you want. And the Linux philosophy follows its predecessor called Unix. Now, I can make a separate video all about the history of Unix and Linux and macOS X and POSIX and all that stuff. If you want that video, just let me know in the comments below. If you want another video about another subject, again, just let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your suggestions. But to skip over the history, Linux follows that same philosophy that it was cloned from, which is everything is a file or a process. And instead of doing API calls like Windows, where you have to craft things in certain ways in order for it to talk, it's really kind of a language. Linux follows the standard of it's a file, it's text. This is what I want you to do. Just run this command. Or this is my configuration file. I don't have to deal with registry settings and API calls and things like that. All you need to do is just tell me what you want to do. And you can write it in plain English pretty much to be able to easily see what's going on. And then it takes that code compiled and then runs against it. Another thing that makes Linux very different than Windows is you might be used to your C drive or D drive in Windows. So you have separate drive letters, and that represents logical drives that you have built on your Windows computer. Linux doesn't do any of that. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and look at this here. If we open up the file manager here in our window manager, we see that we're put in our home folder. And you'll notice the path is just a / and it says home James. Now if I hit computer, it shows file system. And if I click that, now it's just a /. Well, what's interesting is this is essentially your C drive, the equivalent in Linux. The only difference is there is no C drive. Linux has a file system that allows you to run across all your drives. And you can link those drives or shares or separate file systems, what have you, anywhere in the file system that you want. So for example, if I had a secondary hard drive, if I wanted to, I could add it into here just by creating a folder and then linking it to that folder, because everything is under this / path. So like, for example, here, when I clicked on James, you see how it goes / home James. If I go back here and go to home and James, this is the same spot. Matter of fact, it even shows me up here. To better understand that, let's open up the terminal here. And let's go ahead and let's increase the size. So now that we're in our terminal and we've got this a little bigger to easier to see, let's see where we're at. Now you'll notice there's this little tilde sign thing here, and this is our prompt. So with Linux, everything is command line really in the back end. Now, the beauty part of that is it gives you more control and more capabilities in the system, because it's simple. If you want to see where you're at, there's a simple command, and I'm going to make a separate video for this to explain the paths and things, some Linux commands, but we're just going to cover some very basics here. We can see that we're in the home James. This is path of working directory. That's what that PWD stands for. So it tells us that we're home. Now, again, we're going to cover commands in a separate video, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. Whereas if we look in our root, these are all of our different folders. So this in the command line is the equivalent of looking here in the File Explorer. Now this File Explorer is called Funar, but it's still File Explorer. Essentially, it's the XFC equivalent window manager to see your files. Now each of these files and folders, and I'll probably make a separate video on explaining what each of these do, help you get more comfortable with it, but they do different things in the file system. Because it's so simple, it allows you to easily see where everything is. It doesn't hide anything from you. That's the nice part about Linux. Now there's some distributions that are a little different, like Mac underlying it's actually very similar to Linux. It's actually based on a BSD, open source BSD clone. And again, I might make a separate video on that. But with it, they try and hide a lot of these things from you. But by doing so, though, they try and simplify it. So for most people, they don't ever notice and they can just go about their days. Whereas Linux, it's built for programmers. It's built for sysadmins. It's built for tech individuals. Now, with that being said, there are plenty of distributions out there, and think of distributions as different flavors. They have all unique differences, where some are catered more for a lot more user-friendly for beginners, where they are similar to macOS X, where they hide a lot of this stuff behind walls so you don't have to think about it, you don't have to see it, and simplify it and make it a lot easier. Others like Debian here that I've got say, here's what you got. There's some that are even more hardcore, you could say, where they really say, okay, you want your operating system, you get to build it from scratch. Matter of fact, there's a project called Linux from Scratch where you literally compile every piece of code yourself. You build your operating system from the ground up. It's like going out and buying all the individual components to build a car, and then you construct it together, you know, and as well as get your own resources and stuff on top of it to build the parts. It's labor intensive, but it's very educational. We'll probably have more videos on the different Linux variants out there if there's enough interest, but I wanted to put this first video out just to kind of give you a little taste of Linux, what it's about. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll have more videos about how to do things in Linux, some higher end stuff to help more of our intermediate viewers. Please like, subscribe, comment below what you would like to see. We're gonna have a lot of fun with some videos here soon because I've got a lot of great projects lined up. And we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.